Good morning everyone and welcome back to the penultimate episode in our LEGO Legend of Zelda Custom Set Showcase Wave 2. And as we wrap things up over here, we're moving closer and closer towards our finale, with this week looking at Z00027 with 622 pieces. This is the Castle Wall Defense. And this is a set based off Breath of the Wild, and as you can see, it is a part of Hyrule Castle, and we'll get into how that links in with our finale later on today, but you can see here that it is for ages 8 and plus, with 622 pieces, retailing for 50 Great British Pounds, containing 5 minifigures and a brick-built moblin. We have a section of castle wall and a turret, or I guess it's sort of like a guard post, I'm not really sure. They're common across Hyrule Castle, and I thought it was worth including here. So let's read the description and then get on into the details of this build. So, defend Hyrule Castle from the Moblin's forces in the all-new LEGO Legend of Zelda playset. Watch out for the flying bokoblins tossed by the moblin and prepare the crossbow to fire back. Man the battlements and combine copies of Z00027 and Z0024 to expand your castle and its army. Plan your attacks from the battle room and stop the monster's rampage. Containing explosion features, 5 minifigures and buildable moblin, the story continues with your imagination. So as you would have picked up here, this is a unit set, meaning that you can buy one or you can buy 7, and we'll take a look at what that looks like in just a bit, but you can imagine this as sort of an oversized battle pack, but not really, and the idea is that when you combine them all together, you'd create a giant castle, and Z0024, which will be colouring next Friday as our finale, will heavily link into making that castle actually look good. But here is the model, but before we can build it, let's have a look at how it came out of the box. Inside our box, we have 5 numbered bags and a fairly big instruction manual. And inside our instruction manual, we can see what the bags build. So bag number 1 is responsible for our moblin's construction. Then bag 2 builds up the bottom of the guard tower using some very interesting techniques that we'll take a look at later. Bag number 3 finishes off the ground floor, while 4 finishes off the guard tower, and 5 is responsible for the last wall segment. Taking a look at a couple of the main features, first we have that explosion feature, which is fairly minimal at the top of the tower. Not really sure what causes this explosion, maybe an explosive barrel or something like that, but you've got one of the Mario 2x6 tiles out the back, which explodes off the top row of tiles, possibly dealing some damage further down, and sort of creating that exploding feature. Next up, one of the features is a bit less important, but also very important when we talk about combining the walls. But you can see the wall here with its nice detail. It's got the brickwork, some Erling brick decoration, some battlements at the top, some rocks and some plants down the bottom. But what you'll notice is that it's on an angle, and you can see that very clearly with the cheese slopes that make up that angle and make it look fluid. But obviously, not all walls you're going to want to create are going to want to be angled like this. Some are going to be angled, some of them are going to be flat, some of them are going to be right angled. So what you can do is open up the hinge, remove the cheese slopes, which are only partially detached, and then slam it back together, because that is actually possible. I have tested it, it works, and it finishes off the wall. So you can just open and then close your wall to give you different angles and different options when displaying and playing with the set. So on the inside of that wall, you can see that there isn't too much going on. However, you do have a little weapons rack down the bottom for the soldiers' spears included with the minifigures, and you can see how those hinge attachments work, as well as a bit of the inside of the guard tower over there. But inside that guard tower properly, we have a cooking pot over in the corner, 2 ladders which lead up to the battlement. Obviously, one leads up to the battlement only if you connect another set. And you have a table in the middle, and on that table you have a wine glass, wine bottle, another pot, and a 2x2 tile which actually has a map of the Great Plateau on it from Breath of the Wild, which I thought was an iconic enough area to include a map tile of. Up the top, you will see another spare missile bolt in a barrel, and on these hinges over here you can see these 2 1x4 dark grey bricks, and in studio we don't have this piece, but this would actually be the 1x4 flick fire missile shooters, and we have 3 of those missiles included in the set in pearl silver, which can be shot out of the window at any attacking opponents. Moving on briefly, here's what I mean about comparing the sets. And you can see they're also at a varying degree of angles, showing off that feature of the walls. But you can see this is what would happen if you combined 6 of this set. And yes, I'm aware that's expensive, but some people are crazy and you might as well give people the option. So here you go, you have 6 of the walls kind of creating a battlement style thing. And obviously this opens us up in the future for more castle expansions like the gatehouses or the drawbridge gate at the front of the castle. Possibly even some other expansions. Obviously, Hyrule Castle's a giant rocky mountain, so we get to see lots of these as our designs go forward in the next couple of waves of this showcase. But of course, if you brought 6 sets, that's not all you're getting, as you're getting a lot of characters too. And with 6 sets, that equates to 6 moblins, 12 bokoblins, 6 of these silver type bokoblins, and then 12 guards to man the castle. And those guards become even more important when you think about Z0024, which we'll be looking at next week. Going into the characters for today, let's start with the Silver Bokoblin, who is a reprint of the Bokoblin mold from Wave 1 of my Custom Wave Showcase that came in the Bokoblin Battle Pack, as well as the Advent Calendar, and is making its 3rd appearance here. He is using the same headpiece, but with white and purple printing. I made the decision that the Silver Bokoblins would be white rather than silver, as when we come to do other silver enemies like Silver Lionels, that's going to be a bit hard to do the pearl silver in all of those pieces. So I thought it was best to make them not chrome and white and purple instead. You can see we still got the minifigurized skull on his torso, as well as the same kind of printing and the back piece like before. It looks pretty close to in-game. You can see the malice infected eyes, purple mouth, and light yellow nose. Moving on to the Moblin, which is probably the more interesting character from the wave. And this is built very much like the Groot from 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy sets. You've got the posable legs, posable arms. He's holding a halberd in there, which is drawn a bit badly. But how the torso works is it's brick built up. So we'll see it in when we go to studio in a minute. But it's two 2x4, two 2x2 bricks, and then a 2x6 brick stacked across the top. And it's sort of like a cover over piece. So you just slide this big armored body piece over the top of the model, and then there is a minifigure head with this specialized headpiece that sits on the top for the actual Moblin head, and that allows us to make Style Moblins as well as Style Moblin heads on their own later in the future, as it just gives us more options for the body piece and then also the Moblin head itself. So that's a good idea. So that's 2 new molds for this guy. That's a lot of the mold budget, but I think it was worth it. And you can see him compared to in-game, just to take the wrap off the arms, as I didn't think the detail was really necessary, especially considering all the ball joints in Lego look a bit odd. You can see his loincloth as well as his headpiece, and then obviously the normal Lego horn piece coming out of the top of the new head mold. Moving on to figures we've seen before, which this set actually has the most of so far, we have 2 Hyrulean soldiers included in this set, which is based off the soldier's armor from Breath of the Wild. It is not Link in this armor. These are just generic soldiers using one of the generic Lego face prints and the Rohirrim helmet recolored and a spear piece. This guy first appeared in Wave 1 of the custom set showcase in the Castletown People Pack, and he appears here in greater numbers defending your castle from the invaders. Another figure that's appeared quite prevalently is the Red Bokoblin from Breath of the Wild, and he's the exact same figure from Wave 1 of the showcase, from the Red Bokoblin Battle Pack and then the Advent Calendar. And he's here, the exact same, completely unchanged, same head mold, basic red colour, Legoized skull, dual molded arms and back piece. And I really like this figure. He's iconic, simple, and a molded head mold. So that's going to do it for looking at the set over here. Let's go over to Studio and show you a bit more behind the scenes of that Moblin construction and inside of the tower. Right, so here in Studio, the first thing we're going to take a look at is what I meant with this Moblin. And of course, over here, he has none of the specialist pieces. So this gives us a good idea of what I was talking about. So you can see here the core structure of the Moblin that's been built up using nice simple bricks. And you would have this sort of chest plate that comes over the shoulders here. So just sort of something that slots over the top with some muscle definition and things. And then you've got the minifigure head, and then just like a headpiece that goes over a normal minifigure, you've got the Moblin head that would go over the top of him there. Apart from that, it's a fairly standard brick built figure, about twice the height of a minifigure, so I'm really pleased with that. Over here on the actual castle, considering monsters are still attacking and there's no guardians, I'm going to assume this is pre-calamity or early stages of calamity, so I felt okay adding a little splash of colour with this flower. It's a bit bland, it's a bit useless really, but besides that I think it's nice. One of the huge things I want to talk about is this technique here. I've been loving the designer use of the DC minifigure poser piece in 2021, and I decided to give it a go myself. So if I try and hide some of this little piece here, you'll notice it's attached at a 45-degree angle, and that is in fact done with DC minifigure poser pieces coming out of the side of snot bricks at 45 degrees and then getting this brick and tile bit stuck on them to sort of replicate the shape of these towers from in-game, as they're kind of sort of like a plus shape with four corners sort of protruding. Obviously there'd be windows on the real thing, but there's certain limitations to scale. Got this window at the front, and there's definitely a heavy use of the masonry brick, which is something I'm not sure Lego would do, but I decided to do it here just for the fun of it, really. You know, I don't always have to do things perfectly accurately. Next, we have the backside, and one thing you'll also notice is that these ladders don't actually lead anywhere. In the game, you have sort of a passageway that opens out here, but again, play and necessity, I thought it was better to have the ladders and not the entrances for stability, especially considering this tower is going to be launched. You've got the small upper piece here, just like in game, and that is actually possibly able to detach. It's a separate build, so you could take it off and put it to the side if you really wanted to, although it's not designed to work like that. You can see the shooter in here, as well as up here we get a better look at that activation lever and how it's included in the tower. Down here on the table, I'll give you one look at that Great Plateau map, which is just a picture of the Great Plateau from the game put onto a 2x2 tile. Lego would obviously stylize that and make it look beautiful, but I'm not particularly skilled in graphic design. And then over on the back portion of the wall, we have this little weapons rack. I guess the last thing to show you guys is if I try and demonstrate the flattening of the wall. The first thing you do would be remove this piece. You'd get those two pieces which were attaching this side element. You'd rotate them, or just leave them there really. Attach two more of these studs like this, and then change the hinge angle, if I can grab the hinge that is, to flat, like that. So now you have a flat wall. Or if I grab this again and turn it round, you could even do a curve, although that's not going to look great because, well, you've got a hole in the wall, but that's besides the point. You could also take the hinges off if you just didn't want the wall segment. As for combining a lot of these guys together, I think it's important that I showed you that picture of them all combined just in a row like this, but I suppose if you really wanted to, you could grab a second wall like this and attach that on here as sort of like a double wall segment like that. And then you could keep the wall going and then have another one of these towers at the other end. But that's just a rough demonstration of what I meant there. Anyway, let's go back and close up this. So that's going to do it for Z0027 and our penultimate set in Wave 2 of the Custom Set Showcase, and you can see we're building towards this combining Hyrule Castle sets, very much like the 2018 Harry Potter Hogwarts sets that have been added to over the last 3 years. I think it's a great way to do Hyrule Castle. It's a great way for medieval castle fans or Hyrule Castle fans. Each one should include a little figure selection. But next week we're building to the climax of the wave, something that I'm sure you've all been waiting to see my take on. And, well, I hope it doesn't disappoint. There's a couple of problems with it, but I think it illustrates my point just lovely. And at the end of the day, I'll settle for that. If all you get out of this is ideas for what LEGO might do, not good models, then I'm happy. So, in the meantime, let me know what you guys thought of this combinable wall segment for Hyrule Castle. Consider subscribing so you don't miss our finale. And I'll see you next week. Goodbye.